Hey guys, Sandro here from Carcraft Auto Detailing in Melbourne. Today's video is a review and first look at the brand new lineup of Scholl Concepts Ecofix range. These products have just hit the market or are just about to, depending on where you live. But I was fortunate enough to get my hands on some a little earlier to have a good play around with them and hopefully provide some useful information on them for those of you who do use Scholl Concepts products and will be considering purchasing this new range once it's out. Just briefly, for those of you who aren't aware of Scholl Concepts or are new to the brand, I'll just give you a quick glimpse of the company. Scholl has actually been developing and manufacturing compounds, polishes, pads, and various products for the automotive paint and finishing industry for well over 50 years, working to provide many car manufacturers with paint refining and correcting systems to suit many specific paint types and situations. It's really been more recently that they launched their own Scholl Concepts Ecofix range, which was and has been a great success for the company, due to the simple fact that they are fantastic products that many painters and auto body shops initially started using, and then the brand followed on to the detailing sector, and the rest is history. Many of you may also be surprised to learn that some of your favourite and world's largest detailing brands have actually had their compounds, polishes, and various other products developed and manufactured by Scholl. So when you get down to it, many of the developments in the abrasive technology that is found in most compounds and polishes today, as well as the cell structure and advancements in pad technology, is largely due to the innovation Scholl Concepts has been at the forefront of. But let's get down to this video by having a look at the new Ecofix lineup of compounds, polishes, sealants, and a quick look at the new Scholl pads that have been developed to complement this range. Now, apart from the very limited information that's printed on the bottles, there's really nothing out there at the moment to explain where this new Ecofix range is meant to sit and how it differs from Scholl's established Ecofix range. So I'm just going to have to wing it and base this review predominantly on my thoughts and initial experiences with this range on the few cars and test panels I've had the chance to use it on. A quick overview of the range starts with their E1500 heavy cut compound, which is followed by the E2000 medium cut compound, and then finished with the E3000 fine cut polish. In addition, there is an E all-in-one cut and shine polish and the E-wax protection sealant. 4 new pads have also been launched with this range, comprising of a wool pad, a white foam compounding pad, an orange foam polishing pad, and lastly a black foam finishing pad. So first up, I'm going to start with a more broad look at the Ecofix range. The first difference that's both obvious and such a relief for me personally is the bottles themselves. I don't think I'm alone in disliking the traditional Scholl Concepts compounding and polishing bottles that have a tendency to splatter the product everywhere and make it near impossible to distribute controlled amounts of product on your polishing pads. So I'm happy to report that the new bottles dispense the product and work absolutely great. Next is the bottle cap color coded system that easily identifies each product with white, blue, black, red, and yellow caps that also extends those colors to the actual pigment of the compounds, polishes, and sealants themselves. Then you take into account the very simplistic name and labeling, which again easily allows the user to identify what the product is, with the basic but obvious descriptions of heavy, medium, and fine cut to all-in-one and wax protection. This may sound like something obvious and nothing new, but for those of you who use Scholl Concepts, you'll know that their products visually look one tone, and without using them previously, it's actually hard to identify which compounds are for what, and it's actually nice to see the German brand add a splash of colour to their packaging. Lastly is a surprising difference that I wasn't expecting, which is the smell of these new compounds and polishes. Again, it's not really common for Scholls to add a pleasant fragrance to their compounds or polishes, as most of them just have a more solvent-based smell. And although I wouldn't say that they have an amazing smell that you'd expect from a brand like Polish Angel, they are definitely a little nicer than your traditional Scholl product. Okay, so none of this stuff is a deal breaker or the real important qualities when you get down to rating these products. But already, you can see that quite interestingly, there seems to be a user-friendliness experience and angle to this new Ecofix range that is quite different to Scholl's established Ecofix range. And although, like I said, this stuff isn't a deal breaker, it's certainly a pleasant and welcoming change in my eyes. So let's get down to the real stuff of how these Ecofix products perform and where they sit in relation to Scholl's Abrafix products, which was something I was really interested to know, and hopefully you will be as well. Now, although I obviously can't say I've extensively used any of these products so far, I have had the chance to use them on a range of hard to medium and soft paints, changing up my techniques and working with the new pads to try and discover as much as I can about them in a short period. The one product I've used the most so far is the E1500 Heavy Cut, which is also the most aggressive compound in this range. As a whole, I can confidently say that there's no doubting it's a great compound. The cut it achieves is actually really up there with some of my favourite compounds, as is the impressive finish. And when you consider the bad dusting factor you have in many high-level cutting compounds, E1500 is actually better than most. Now it does dust, but overall it's quite minimal in comparison to many other compounds, and the wipe off again is quite decent. Now for those of you who are familiar with Scholl Concepts, there's really no getting away from the fact that E1500 works and performs quite similar to S3 Gold, and a side-by-side comparison further confirmed that suspicion. However, although there is no doubting that they do perhaps contain quite similar chemistry, I wouldn't say that they are identical. Now, it may be too early to tell, but I did feel I was getting a touch more cut with E1500 than with S3 Gold. Yet, I couldn't see a difference in the finish that they were both producing on a variety of harder to softer paints. However, after a side-by-side comparison with E1500 and Scholl S2 Orange, I found that S2 was providing a little more defect removal, but the E1500 was dusting less and finishing better overall. Now that would indicate that E1500 perhaps sits somewhere in the middle of S2 Orange and S3 Gold in both its cutting and finishing characteristics, as well as in its dusting and ease of wipe off. I'll be honest in saying that on first glance, I wasn't all that impressed with the new pads. And for some strange reason, I was told that the wool pad had been labelled as a microfiber pad according to Scholl Concepts. But there must be something wrong or lost in translation, as it's quite clearly a wool pad. But that aside, the wool pad is actually not bad. I wouldn't however recommend it on a dual action polisher, as it just doesn't seem to balance very well or run smooth. But on my rotary, it actually worked a treat. I also wouldn't say it's the most aggressive wool pad in relation to defect removal, but as far as finish goes, I was actually massively impressed at how well it finished. Now being wool, it's still going to leave slight holograms, especially on your rotary, but they are quite minimal and easily removed with just some quick follow-up passes on a foam pad. Now there's nothing I can really fault about these new foam pads, as so far they work fine, and the white pad actually provided a fairly good cut and quite impressive finish on medium to hard paints. The orange pad is really a bit of an all-rounder and great for one steps, with a decent amount of cut, and apart from super soft paints, it can finish down exceptionally well on almost any paint, while the black pad is great for those super soft paints and for jeweling or machine applying wax and sealants. But at the same time, there's nothing that has overly impressed me about these pads. Although they are decent, they aren't balanced to the level of a Rubes pad or even to the level of perhaps my favourite foam pads, which are the Scholl White Spider and Blue Spider pads that are really impressive in both their cutting and finishing abilities, but they are also quite expensive. So for me personally, my opinion will be largely based on price and their durability, as I don't feel these new pads are up there with Scholl's better pads, but at a lower price point, that would definitely be a pad I'd consider. Now onto E2000 Medium Cut Compound. Immediately I was thinking one stage polish and perhaps comparing it to one of my all-time favourite compounds, which many of you may know is Scholl S20 Black. Now once again, this is by all accounts a great compound, and trying it with both the white and orange foam pads actually confirm that. With the white pad you can actually achieve more cut than you'd expect with a mid-course compound, and on hard to medium paints I was actually able to finish down near flawlessly with that combination. But you don't want to work E2000 too long with a coarser pad such as the white one, as there is no need to, since it seems to break down quite quickly compared to E1500, and it will begin to dust, though it's nothing crazy. I found that for less defect removal but a better finish on medium to softer paints, E2000 with the orange pad worked a treat, and actually gave me quite a long work time before encountering any dusting, with a fairly easy wipe off. I wouldn't personally recommend using E2000 as with E1500 on a finishing pad such as the black one, as it seems to struggle to break down anything but a very fine polish such as E3000. Now for the big question, is it as good as S20 Black? I'm going to have to say that at this early stage I'm not entirely convinced. Again, I did do some side-by-side comparisons and it is quite close, but I just seem to dust slightly with E2000, whereas S20 Black was completely dust-free. And although I found that E2000 tends to break down almost as easy as S20, the wipe-off is easier and doesn't seem to benefit from longer working times as S20 Black does. But having said that, it's not a massive difference, just more subtle variations in their chemistry that I found. So overall, I would say that E2000 does perhaps provide a quicker, more user-friendly result than S20 Black, but with perhaps a slightly more limited range in cutting to finishing results. I would actually say that E2000 is much closer to the new S20 Black Easy Clean, or perhaps even closer again to S17, which unfortunately I didn't have any on hand to do a direct comparison. But the fact that it could cut just as well as S20, if not better, but perhaps not finish as well on softer paints, led me to that conclusion. Next is the finest polish of the new range, which is E3000. By all accounts, this is an extremely fine polish that I personally found only to have any real benefits on the softer paint types, as I found that E2000 was finishing exceptionally well on the hard to medium paints, with no real benefit in most cases by following up with the E3000. The work time of this polish is really endless, with no dust to be seen, and an extremely easy wipe off, which, although is great, is nothing new to fine dueling polishes. I also found that depending on how soft the paint was, I was getting better results with the orange pads on the more mid to soft paints, whereas the black pad definitely had an edge on the super soft paint I tried it on. In relation to Scholl Concepts' existing fine polishes in their Abrafix range, this would place E3000 side by side by S30 or perhaps even S40. Again, more time is needed to see if it really is closer to one or the other, and only through using it a little more extensively on the much softer Japanese paints in general will bring that answer to light. For those of you who aren't aware of all-in-one polishes, basically they are generally fine polishes that contain a wax or sealant, so that in essence you're both polishing the paint and protecting it all in one process. And in addition, these products are also able to fill minor scratches and imperfections to visually improve the overall finish of the paint with minimal effort compared to true paint correction and protection, which is generally a far more involved and time-consuming process. All-in-One Cut and Shine is the Ecofix lineup's all-in-one polish, and by all accounts, this is another great product that has an extremely great ease of use with a long work time and equally easy wipe off that does produce what I must say is a very nice glossy deep finish that is silky smooth to the touch. Now, although I haven't used it for quite some time, some of you may be aware of Scholl Concepts A15 in their Ecofix range, which is again an all-in-one polish. Now, although I thought that A15 was a good product, it honestly wasn't my favourite all-in-one compared to a few other all-in-one polishes out there on the market. However, I gotta say that All-in-One Cut and Shine seems to be a step up compared to A15. And although the jury is still out, I also have to say that it seems to have a little more cut than most all-in-ones and could really be the Ecofix lineup's golden child. I'll also add that I seem to get much better results using the white and orange foam pads compared to the black one. It just seems that the black soft finishing pad struggled a little in breaking down this all-in-one polish, whereas the other two seem to produce much better results. Lastly in this new range is the E-Wax Protection. This is more or less a sealant that does also contain natural wax ingredients to provide the paintwork with some increased gloss and lasting protection as the last stage product in this range. Now, so far with all the products in this range, it seems to me that although they are quite similar to Scholl's existing range, they are still a little different. However, apart from the smell and the colour of E-Wax, I must say that to me it looks and feels like Scholl's W6 glaze wax. Not that that is necessarily a bad thing, as I've always really liked W6 for its extremely easy application that is perhaps one of the most sun-friendly products on the market and also one of the best looking ones at that. And although it's not as durable as some sealants, it will outlast most conventional waxes out there. But again, time will be the only true way to tell if E-Wax really does perform like W6 or if it's something a little different. I think the hardest thing from my perspective about this review was trying to work out where this new Ecofix range fits into Scholl's existing range of products, as well as if they are something entirely new or more of a repackaged product range. Honestly, this question will require more time with these new products to gain a more conclusive answer, as we all know how diverse paints, defects, and certain situations can be. But if you remove the fact that they are a new product range by Scholl, and just rate them as you would any other new brand, I don't think that there's any denying that they are a great range of standalone products. My conclusion would be that overall, the Ecofix range is more than just a simple repackaged product range of Scholl Concepts' existing Ecofix range. But having said that, I don't see this new lineup as an entirely new formulation or innovation of what this company is capable of. In my eyes, the Ecofix range is more of a fine-tuning of the company's great products and formulations that have been geared towards professional detailers rather than the paint body shop and car manufacturers as their Ecofix range was and is. The thing about Scholl Concepts that I've found is that in the past, their compounds and polishes have always been very specific in relation to the particular paint they were intended to be used on, whether it's fresh paint or fully cured, hard, medium and soft paints, and whether you're dealing with the more traditional clear coats or the newer scratch resistant ones. But I think the great success of this company's large Ecofix range has opened the door for a more concise range of products that have the ability to tackle a variety of paints in a variety of conditions that is actually what the detailing industry is about and requires, as opposed to car manufacturers and body shops who tend to deal with more similar and their own specific paints for the most part. However, there is some things that have raised a couple of red flags for me. One is that printed on the bottle is the warning that these new compounds and polishes are not approved for the painter and are not body shop safe. Now, apart from the E All-in-One and E-Wax, I don't understand why the 3 new compounds and polishes wouldn't be body shop safe, as after working with them, there doesn't appear to be any fillers or silicone based ingredients in them, at least that I could see. And quite honestly, if there is, I don't understand why there will be the need for them at all. Being that coatings are such a large and growing sector of detailing, any products that aren't body shop safe wouldn't be safe for the application of ceramic coatings either. The next point that I gotta say is a little insulting for any detailer is the fact that Scholl then goes on to say that they recommend their premium Ecofix compounds for painters and body shops. So that then leads me to believe that this new Ecofix range that has been developed for the detailer is a lower grade than the Ecofix range that has been developed for the body shop. Again, I'm not an overly prideful person when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I don't think that any detailer would be overly keen to buy product deemed to be created for the detailer at a lower level than the premium products that have been created for the painter. I don't want to dwell on this point, but I really don't feel that this is going to help Scholl sell to professional detailers, which, let's face it, is where this new product range is firmly aimed at. Now, I'm happy to put this down to perhaps a lost in translation from German to English, but even more so, I'd say this is just a way of Scholl Concepts trying to protect and not hurt their established Ecofix range with the launch of this new range. But that's just my opinion. I'm definitely going to continue using this new Ecofix range of products for the meantime and see what else I can discover about them before passing judgment on whether I feel they will be a range of products that can benefit my work in the long run. Also, from what I've been told, they will be slightly more affordable than Scholl's existing range, which will perhaps add an extra element of value to the range. I really hope this video was useful to some of you out there. Please like, comment and subscribe to show your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.